couple of videos ago, I did an audit and a breakdown of AI and autonomous vehicles. I did a philosophical breakdown of why it's not going to work. And then we looked at one of the main founders of Aurora Innovations, one of the main heavyweights of self driving, Sterling Anderson. But let's go back to the genesis, the beginning of the self driving, especially truck, but self driving in general, but self driving truck scam that's going on right now. This story, to me, looking at it, I was like, what? This is way crazier than the social network, the founding of Facebook. They made a movie out of that one. This one, nobody even really knows what's going on or what happened. I mean, it came out, but nobody's looking for this stuff. But I did. And it's a story of like corporate espionage and $1 billion lost and federal indictment and people going to prison and well, you name it, it has everything. Like it has everything except for deletions. It's not they're not gangsters, but they're these scientific elite that for some reason became scammers. And I would like to take a look at why that happened. What's funny is that the self-driving truck genesis isn't about software and lidars. It's about a corporate heist. It's about engineers jacking 14,000 files from Google. And that's how this starts. And it goes to these four engineers at Google. In 2015, 2016, they leave Google and start a company called Otto, OTTO. Let's go back a little bit before that. They have a boss, and their boss is Chris Urmson. Chris Urmson is the founder of Aurora Innovations with Sterling Anderson, who we took a look at last video. Please check it out because it all connects. Well, these four engineers, their names are, let's see, there's Anthony Levandowski, Lior Ron, Claire Delaunay, and Don Burnette. These four, to me, in my opinion, they realize that the self-driving vehicle, self-driving truck, it's never gonna work. These are top people in the field. Like you don't understand. If you look at their backgrounds, they're computer scientists. They're top level. Okay, these are the kind of people that Joe Rogan drools over. Like normies love these people. They think they're gods. They decide to leave Google and start a company, Otto. Well, from what the record shows, Anthony Levandowski plugged his personal hard drives into Google computers and took 14,000 files of their LiDAR system. He was the hardware guy. And these four engineers walk out of Google, start Otto, and within 8 months, Uber buys their company for $680 million. That is insane. Okay? That's a crazy feat to start with. Yeah, let's go back to AI and self-driving trucks. I did a couple of videos back of AI and why it's never going to work as in self-driving vehicles, especially trucks. And then after that video, I made a video about Sterling Anderson and Aurora Innovations, the top self-driving truck company in the world right now, and all the, you know, uh, interesting, let's say, happenings with that. But looking at these founders, it has a crazier story that begins all this. Let's go back to the genesis of this self-driving truck industry. Let's go back to Google in 2015, 2016. Uh, we don't have to. There's a lot of players here, so let's try to keep them. Remember who they are, because there's a bunch of players. Well, Chris Urmson, one of the founders of Aurora with Sterling Anderson, he is working at Google. He is a child prodigy, computer scientist, like heavyweight, like the top of the field. Google hires him, puts him in charge of their self-driving car division, truck division, now known as Waymo. 4 of his engineers, Anthony Levandowski, Claire Delaunay, Don Burnette, and Lior Ron, they quit Google. Mind you, they're making millions of dollars a year. Who knows how? A lot. They're making a lot of money. They quit Google, start a company called Otto, OTTO. Within 8 months, they have a working prototype. They make this highly produced video, put it on YouTube, of a Volvo truck self-driving itself, delivering a load of Budweiser in Colorado. I remember watching this in 2016. I've always been watching this self-driving truck stuff. I'm a truck driver, and it blew my mind. I was like, what? I didn't even think about editing and the director and Hollywood production. Like, I didn't even think about that. But these 4 engineers, within 8 months, start a company, have a working prototype, and it works. Supposedly, allegedly, it didn't work, right? We look back now, we know it didn't work. Uber was in a panic because they thought Google was going to make a self-driving car and destroy their whole business with the self-driving car. This is 10 years ago. You see any self-driving cars anywhere? No. There might be some here, some there, but they don't even work good. Anyways, back to the story. Uber buys the company for $680 million and hires the 4 engineers to run their self-driving vehicle division, and they put Anthony Levandowski in charge. Well, it Google is like, wait a minute, how did 4 of our engineers leave and within 8 months have a working prototype when our crap sucks? Something's wrong here, right? It's kind of obvious. Chris Urmson already suspected Anthony Levandowski of foul play. He wrote a famous email now about him. Like, he was like, hey, we need to fire this guy or whatever. He's up to no good, right? Let's go back a little bit, because they said this story there's a lot to it. To me, if you ask me, in my opinion, this is way crazier than that movie about Facebook, The Social Network. This is way crazier. Well, before buying Otto, Uber hires a security firm, I think, a top level, like investigators, to investigate the 4 engineers. And they figure out that Lewandowski he's a shady character. They're like, he's kind of telling on himself. He said something like he left, or he found some Google disks in his garage when he was cleaning out his garage. Some, dumb, obviously stupid story. And that he took the files or the disks to some place in Oakland and had them destroyed, and he has a receipt. The investigators go to that place he said he went to. They don't know nothing about it. They talk to Google employees, and some of them rat on Lewandowski. They're like, he was telling me he was gonna do something really bad to Google, and what, I'm not sure exactly, but let's just say, people were talking. So this security firm writes a report, gives it to Uber, because Uber hired them to investigate, and they tell Uber in the report, this 4 engineers, something's up. They're shady. especially Levandowski, that are pretty much saying, don't trust that guy, don't trust these engineers, something's up. I wouldn't buy this company. Uber's like, nah, I think we'll do it anyways. Huge mistake. Huge. To me, one of the biggest blunders of all time in corporate history. Like, this is so stupid. And they paid for it big time. We're talking over $1 billion of, of a mess they had to clean up after this. Well, Google sues Uber, and they have proof. They went back and looked at their computers, and yup, old Lewandowski plugged in his personal hard drives and stole 14,000 files. Sound familiar? He did this before Sterling Anderson. Sterling Anderson did the same exact move to Tesla. Right? Remember in the last video, Sterling Anderson did the exact same thing. Now we know where he got it from. He got it from Lewandowski. Well, Lewandowski pleads the fifth, right? There's legal depositions of the other three engineers. They pretty much claim they don't know what, they had no idea what Lewandowski was doing. I call bullshit. There's no way. There's no way. They knew exactly what they were doing. They had to have, right? Because I always wondered why Uber didn't fire them. When Uber found out what happened, they didn't fire these people. They hired them. They stayed on with Uber. Well, they end up firing Lewandowski, and he goes to prison for 18 months. Lewandowski is a funny character himself. He starts an AI religion, like a tax-free religion. That's another story, though. We could touch on that in another video. So, where are we at? See, Lewandowski, yeah, he goes to prison. He takes the fall. He takes all the fall. Uber has to pay $245 million to Google. They can't use another LiDAR. They can't use the truck. They can't use anything. They end up tearing the truck apart and realizing it was just like sensors and LiDAR slapped with a basic lane changing software program. Like, it was literally a scam. Like, there is no way you can say this wasn't a scam, right? So in my opinion, these engineers, this is their life's work. They went to the best colleges, MIT, all this stuff, for AI, for computer science, for all this stuff. Why in the world? They're getting paid millions of dollars. Money is no object. Why in the world would they scam Google? Like, nobody asked this question. Why? That's the first question that came to my mind. Why would they scam Google? Why would they scam Uber? Like, why would they steal from Google to scam Uber? Or whoever bit their Trojan horse of a truck. Why? After looking at AI, breaking it down and to see exactly what it is, it's a probability calculator. And philosophically, it's never going to work. Mechanically, it's never going to work. I mean, there's people that, like, there's the Kershire group. They've done massive 45-page analysis and report on Aurora, putting every reason why the self-driving truck can never ever work. Like, and people just keep believing it. Well, I think, in my opinion, that these people figured out that it's never going to work. They figured it out. They're the top people in the field. So what do? They're rich already. They're bored. They start scamming. Why not? What else are they going to do? Go back to school to learn something else? This is all they know. Yeah, so here we are. This big scandal. This truck that doesn't work. It's a joke. One guy is going to prison. What happens to the other three engineers? That's the question I asked. Well, what happened to the other three? Well, Lior stayed at Google, built their Uber Freight division. made Uber a lot of money. He made a lot of money. And he recently left to another self-driving truck company called Wabi. And Claire, I think she was the smartest one. She left Uber and went to work for NVIDIA. I'm sure made a crap load of money. And then she recently left NVIDIA and works at some ag science. I don't know what she does. But she stayed out of autonomous trucks after that. I think she learned her lesson. And the other people didn't. Well, and that leaves one more, Don Burnette. Don Burnette, he starts Kodiak Robotics, the second biggest autonomous truck driving company right now, right behind Aurora. Ain't that something? Right? So we are the two top self-driving truck companies in the world running right now in Texas are birthed from this scandal, from this scam. That to me says it all. Like, what else can you say besides these are scammers, right? Don Burnette was one of the four engineers that stole the Google LiDAR system, slapped it on a truck that didn't work, produced a video of a truck driving by itself. Uber buys it. It's a scam. Like, it goes down as a scam. Like, for sure. There's legal documents and everything. They went to court over this, but only one person takes the fall, Levandowski, right? So after this happens, Google still is running their self-driving vehicle division. I think it's called AGT or ATG. Well, they have self-driving car in Phoenix, and they realize it's really crappy. It doesn't work very well. So they start editing the code on it. This thing keeps stopping for shadows. And so they kind of delete that or something to that effect. I'm not exactly sure. And they have a safety driver in the car. The car is driving around Phoenix. And if I remember correctly, I may be wrong, the safety driver was watching Netflix on his phone, driving around at nighttime. And I think a lady was crossing the street, crosswalk too, with a bike or a shopping cart or something. And the self-driving car just rams right into her. She lost her life. But now Uber has this radioactive self-driving car vehicle division. The truck's a scam. The engineer they hired, the engineer is in prison, is going to prison for scamming them, for stealing from Google. They just fatalityed some poor pedestrian. So guess what happens next? Chris Urmson gets hooks up with Sterling Anderson. This is about 2018. Yeah, this is 2018. Sterling Anderson, remember, pulled the exact same move as Levandowski, stole from Tesla, got caught, got sued. He didn't go to prison or nothing, though. And they start Aurora with the third guy. The third guy steps down right away. But another computer scientist. He still works at Aurora, but he's in R&D. I think that guy's like a real scientist, and he realized. This is my opinion, my guess. Looking at these characters, I'm giving them some archetypes, because to see what happened, these are top geniuses, and they're acting like fools. He steps down pretty quickly and goes to R&D. Well, for Aurora. Well, Chris Urmson, the boss of the four engineers, hooks up with Anderson, the thief of Tesla, and starts Aurora. And they go to Uber, and Uber's like, take this stupid division off our hands, please. Because they were in a spiral. They pay Aurora $400 million to take the whole division off their hands. Isn't that crazy or not? Or what? The two top self-driving truck companies come from Uber and Google from 2016, 17, and 18. Two known scammers did the exact same scam. Two of them. This to me is like, is anybody paying attention? And you right now, these two companies, Kodiak and Aurora, they are pushing hard this year because they're running out of money. They've been around for a while, and it's time to put up or shut up. There's, in my opinion, they're stuck, so they have to pull that driver out. They have to pull the human out of the truck. That's the next move. Is anybody connecting the dots here? Does anybody see, like, this story is jacked up, right? Like, I don't think anybody gives a shit. Like, they don't. Like, stock companies, the Wall Street will help them out. The government's gonna open their doors to them, all for the desire to take that driver out. They just want the driver out so they can save money. It's like, that driver is never coming out. Never. Never.